Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on chapter 197. Chapter 197. An hour later, Dunyasha came to tell the princess that Dron had come, and all the peasants had assembled at the barn by the princess's order, and wished to have a word with their mistress. "But I never told them to come," said Princess Mary. "I only told Dron to let them have the grain." "Only for God's sake, princess dear, have them sent away, and don't go out to them. It's all a trick," said Dunyasha. "And when Yakov Alpatych returns, let us get away, and please don't—" "What is a trick?" asked Princess Mary in surprise. "I know it is. Only listen to me, for God's sake. Ask nurse, too. They say they don't agree to leave Boguchavaro as you ordered." "You're making some mistake. I never ordered them to go away," said Princess Mary. "Call Dronyushka." Dron came and confirmed Dunyasha's words. The peasants had come by the princess's order. "But I never sent for them," declared the princess. "You must have given my message wrong. I only said that you were to give them the grain." Dron only sighed in reply. "If you order it, they will go away," said he. No, I'll go out to them," said Princess Mary. And in spite of the nurses and Dunyasha's protest, she went out into the porch. Dron, Dunyasha, the nurse, and Michael Ivanovich following her. "They probably think I am offering them the grain to bribe them to remain here, while I myself go away leaving them to the mercy of the French," thought Princess Mary. "I will offer them monthly rations and housing at our Moscow estate. I am sure Andrew would do even more in my place," she thought as she went out into the twilight toward the crowd standing on the pasture by the barn. The men crowded closer together, stirred, and rapidly took off their hats. Princess Mary lowered her eyes, and tripping over her skirt, came close up to them. So many different eyes, old and young, were fixed on her, and there were so many different faces that she could not distinguish any of them, and feeling that she must speak to them all at once, did not know how to do it. But again, the sense that she represented her father and her brother gave her courage, and she boldly began her speech. "I am very glad you have come," she said without raising her eyes, and feeling her heart beating quickly and violently. "Dronushka tells me that the war has ruined you. That is our common misfortune, and I shall grudge nothing to help you. I am myself going away because it is dangerous here. The enemy is near. Because I am giving you everything, my friends, and I beg you to take everything, all of our grain, so that you may not suffer want. And if you have been told that I am giving you the grain to keep you here, that is not true. On the contrary, I ask you to go with all your belongings to our estate near Moscow, and I promise you I will see to it there that you will want for nothing. You shall be given food and lodging." The princess stopped. Sighs were the only sound heard in the crowd. "I am not doing this of my own account," she continued. "I do it in the name of my dead father, who was a good master to you, and of my brother and his son." Again she paused. No one broke the silence. "Ours is a common misfortune, and we will share it together. All that is mine is yours," she concluded, scanning the faces before her. All eyes were gazing at her with one and the same expression. She could not fathom whether it was curiosity, devotion, gratitude, or apprehension and distrust, but the expression on all the faces was identical. "We are all very thankful for your bounty, but it won't do us any good to take the landlord's grain," said a voice at the back of the crowd. But why not? Asked the princess. No one replied, and Princess Mary, looking round at the crowd, found that every eye she met now was immediately dropped. But why don't you want to take it? She asked again. No one answered. The silence began to oppress the princess, and she tried to catch someone's eye. Why don't you speak? She inquired of an old man who stood just in front of her leaning on a stick. If you think something more is wanted, tell me. I will do anything, said she, catching his eye. But as if this angered him, he bent his head quite low and muttered, Why should we agree? We don't want the grain. Why should we give up everything? We don't agree. We don't agree. We are sorry for you, but we're not willing. Go away yourself, alone, came from the various sides of the crowd. And again, all the faces in that crowd bore an identical expression, though now it was certainly not an expression of curiosity or gratitude, but of angry resolve. But you can't have understood me, said Princess Mary with a sad smile. Why don't you want to go? I promised to house you and to feed you, while here the enemy will ruin you. But her voice was drowned by the voices of the crowd. We're not willing. Let them ruin us. We won't take your grain. We don't agree. Again, Princess Mary tried to catch someone's eye, but not a single eye in the crowd was turned to her. Evidently, they were all trying to avoid her look. She felt strange and awkward. Oh yes, an artful tale. Follow her into slavery. Pull down your houses and go into bondage, I dare say. I'll give you grain indeed, she says, voices in the crowd were heard saying. With drooping head, Princess Mary left the crowd and went back into the house. Having repeated her order to Drawn to have horses ready for her departure next morning, she went to her room and remained alone with her thoughts. All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 197. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, day 197. Mary's response. Few things are more irksome than frustrated intentions. It's easy to lose patience when you don't get what you want, particularly if what you want is, by all objective measures, perfectly reasonable. Today, Mary has a plan that, by all objective measures, is perfectly reasonable. She recognizes the threat posed by the invading French forces. In response, she proposes to flee the country estate for the relative safety of Moscow. She offers the peasants free room and board. She assures them that they shall lack nothing. Their response? Angry resolve to remain where they are. In addition, they insult her, claiming that her offer of grain and shelter is no more than a ploy to further enslave them. Mary's response to this nonsense? Calmness. This isn't something we'd expect from the other characters. Nicholas would likely, despite his recent development, erupt in rage and lash out at them. Prince Bolkonsky would probably insult the peasants, lock the grain storehouse, and leave them to the mercy of the French. As for Pierre, we can't be sure. He's so mercurial it's difficult to see where he'd go in this situation. As it happens, though, Mary simply goes to her room to be alone to pray and meditate. She doesn't explode in anger or even malicious thoughts. It's a testament to her character that she doesn't allow the actions of others to disturb her own mind. Daily meditation. And why do I trouble myself about anything that can happen if I possess greatness of soul? What shall distract my mind or disturb me or appear painful? Epictetus, The Discourses. And that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 197 of War and Peace. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining me today. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are down below in the show notes. Tomorrow, we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 198 of War and Peace. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.